Hey guys, welcome back to NFL Trading Room. We are back. It is time for summer scouting. We've got a fun one today for you. We're going to be going over my top five quarterbacks in the 2027 NFL Draft. Really fun quarterback class. I watched 27 quarterbacks for this episode. So first, before we get into the top five, we're going to go over each of the 27. We're not going to break them down or anything, just going to list them each in kind of the tiers that I had graded for them. So starting at 27, we're going to begin with a non-draftable grade. So this would either be undrafted free agent or priority free agent. Coming in at 27, we've got Jalen Raynor, who transferred in from Arkansas State to Iowa State. At 26, we've got DJ Williams from Southern Illinois. At 25, we've got Avery Johnson from Kansas State. At 24, we've got Byron Brown from Auburn. At 23, we've got Jaden Craig transferring from Harvard to TCU. At 22, we've got Sam Levitt transferring from Arizona State to LSU. And then at 21, we've got Noah Fafita out of Arizona. Now I'm going to jump into the day three grades. So this would be anything from a seventh to a fourth round grade, anywhere in that range. At 20, we've got Nico Iamaleava from UCLA. At 19, John Mateer out of Oklahoma. 18, Aiden Childs, who transferred from Michigan State to Northwestern. 17, Kateen Hauser, who transferred from East Carolina to Illinois. At 16, it's Rocco Becht, who transferred from Iowa State along with Matt Campbell to Penn State. At 15, DJ Lagway, who transferred from Florida to Baylor. At 14, Kevin Jennings from SMU. 13 is Julian Sayin out of Ohio State. At 12, it's CJ Bailey from NC State. At 11, it is Jaden Maiava from USC. And that concludes the day three portion of this. Now I'm going to get into some day two portions of this grade. The day two kind of section bleeds into the top five, but we'll just cover 10 through 6 right here really quick. Brendan Sorsby comes in at number 10, the quarterback that transferred from Cincinnati to Texas Tech. A lot of things going on in that situation, so he may not even be in this class. We'll just have to wait and see, but since it's a possibility, went ahead and threw him on this list. At 9, it is Darian Mensah, who transferred from Duke to Miami. At 8, it is Josh Hoover, who transferred from TCU to Indiana. He's always been kind of a my guy for me, so he comes in at number 8 on this list. At 7, it's CJ Carr, the quarterback out of Notre Dame. At 6, it's Drake Lindsey from Minnesota. And that concludes the honorable mentions, if you want to call it that. And some of them weren't close or anything like that, but just wanted to kind of go through the quarterbacks that I watched before I hop into the top 5. But let's go ahead and get started with the top 5. So coming in at number 5 is the early contender for my favorite player in this class. We'll see if that changes. We'll see, what happens as the scouting process continues. But it is Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss. Trinidad Chambliss may have been the best story in college football last year. Of course, he came from Ferris State, won a national championship there. I believe they're Division II. Transferred over to Ole Miss, was essentially going to play second fiddle to Austin Simmons, was going to be the backup. Just wanted to make that jump up to the SEC and play at the SEC level. But Austin Simmons didn't play well and then gets hurt. So Trinidad Chambliss hops in to the lineup, ends up the finalist for the Heisman, and ends up taking Ole Miss to the national championship semifinal. So excellent story, really, really fun player. Really happy that he got that extra year of eligibility so we can continue to see him at this level. And overall, he's just a really, really fun player to watch. He is a graduate senior, so he is, I believe, 25 years old, or he will be by next draft. So that's not really a concern for me, maybe a concern for other people, but especially at quarterback, I don't care necessarily how old they are. Quarterbacks are playing so long nowadays, I don't really think it matters all too much. But at 6'1", 200 pounds, Trinidad Chambliss, while he's small, he's got legitimately plus arm talent. The ball zips out of his hand. He's able to loft the football well down the field. His release is really quick and effortless, and the velocity that he's able to generate when he drives the football genuinely surprised me. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort for him to drive the football. There were some things last year, like we talked about with Ty Simpson, maybe where he strained a little bit to get extra velocity on a lot of those intermediate throws over the middle of the field. Trinidad Chambliss really doesn't have to strain all that much to get that much velocity on the football. Outside of that, he's also an incredibly fun athlete. He's a really good runner of the football. He's insanely good out of structure, makes a ton of plays out of structure. I was only able to cut up the Mississippi State and Georgia uh, film cut ups. The Miami one, for some reason, corrupted for both all 22 files that I have, so not able to show that one. But um, another thing that really popped out about Trinidad Chambliss for me is the processing, and that I think that's most seen against Miami. There's a play late in the fourth quarter where they're in the red zone. He identifies the safety pre-snap, reads it out, and then hits Daquan Wright, I believe, on an outbreaker to give Ole Miss the lead at that particular time in the game. I think outside of that as well, it's not just pre-snap, it's post-snap. I enjoy his ability to click between reads and find the open man and anticipate throws as the concepts are developing. I think the offense was able to be opened up, once Trinidad Chambliss got in at quarterback. And we even saw way more translatable concepts than we ever saw with Jackson Dart under center. So I think that tells us a lot about the type of mind that Trinidad Chambliss plays with. He may be the best quarterback in this class at throwing with touch. Just aesthetically speaking, the loft that he gets on the football to the sideline to the deep portion of the field, his ability to locate the football and give receivers a chance on back shoulder passes, it all just jumps off the screen. Any throw that's 25 plus yards down the field, it seems like he drops it in an absolute bucket. Anything from 10 to 24 yards, he's really deadly accurate. The only real thing that I had a problem with his accuracy, he seemed to spray throws in the quick game a little bit, which is definitely interesting for being so accurate to those deeper portions of the field. So hopefully that gets cleaned up in 2026. Again, he's undersized at 6'1", 200. I think he's more filled out than most players of that frame would suggest, and I do think he is shorter than 6'1", so I think that helps the sturdiness of his frame a little bit, but he definitely is undersized. And we talked about his processing. He does have a tendency to stare down his first read uh, a couple times a game, which can get him in some trouble with some interceptable passes, though in general he does take pretty good care of the football. And then outside of that, another gripe that I had, I'd like to see him have better ball security. Mostly as a runner, it is a little bit of a problem in the pocket, but I think it's a bigger problem when he's out in the open field running with the football. Got to get that tucked away. We can't have fumbles or anything like that. But I think if Trinidad Chambliss was 6'3", 215, he wouldn't be in this class because he would have been a first-round pick last year, and I'm definitely planting my flag for Trinidad Chambliss in this class. And I should mention, he has a second-round grade for me as well at QB5. Next up at QB4, it is Drew Mestemaker, the quarterback that transferred from North Texas to Oklahoma State following his head coach, Eric Morris. This was another fantastic story last year in college football. Drew Mestemaker, if you know the story, didn't really take a snap of or never started as a varsity player at the high school level. I can't remember exactly what high school he went to. If it wasn't IMG, it was something similar where they've just got a boatload of talent, and he was just behind a really good quarterback, so never really got that opportunity to play varsity. But he never transferred. He never, left and quitted on that team. Stayed through it and got a walk-on opportunity at North Texas. And as a redshirt freshman last year, absolutely blew up. He led the nation in passing yards with almost 4,400. He was tied for second in passing touchdowns, and he added 5 additional scores on the ground. So he scored almost 40 touchdowns and threw for 4,400 yards pretty much. So just incredible statistical season for Drew Mestemaker and a really exciting prospect in my opinion. Mestemaker, like I mentioned, he was just a very fun evaluation. I don't love the throwing motion. It's kind of Philip Rivers-esque where it almost seems a bit rounded. It's not quite as traditional as you may want to see, but the ball really does come out very quick and very smooth. He's not throwing ducks or wobblers or anything like that, and generates velocity relatively easily. He's able to click through reads pretty efficiently. I like to see that continue to improve at the next level. He's going to be facing better defenses with the stigma around the Big 12, but that's definitely a step up from the American Conference in terms of defensive talent and defensive structure. So excited to watch him against that level of competition. He's not going to blow you away as an athlete, but he is a solid athlete that can extend runs. You can run, 1 or 2 read options with him a game, something like that. And I think he's got the frame at 6'4" and about 220 to be a legitimate threat as a quarterback sneak option in short yardage situations. I think tapping into his accuracy a little bit, I think it is impressive while he's on the move, especially going to his right, which you would expect for a right-handed quarterback. And I think on top of that, overall, especially as a redshirt freshman, I thought he was a really good decision maker. He got the ball out on time, wasn't getting fooled a ton by deep safeties or coverage rotations or stuff like that. We'll talk about a little the other side of that coin a little bit later, but overall, I thought he was a good decision maker. Everything stems from his footwork. When he's confident in the pocket and he keeps his feet under him, he's tough for any defense to try to stop. The problem, though, as we get into more of the negatives, his footwork can be really inconsistent. The back foot, especially, can kind of be all over the place, which really messes with his base, which can lead to some accuracy issues. I also have a problem with how loose he is with the football in the pocket. We mentioned this with Trinidad Chambliss as a runner, but I think it sticks out to me with Mestemaker in the pocket. He holds the ball really loose. It's really down away from his body. And I worry about that at the next level with a lot of these longer armed pass rushers being able to get a hand in there and knock the football loose. While there are flashes on his tape of his ability to climb the pocket and make the good throw and make the good decision, I really thought he lacked the feel for backside pressure, feeling that out. And I think a lot of that has to do with it's his first year as a starter. He doesn't have that much experience. So hopefully that gets better over time. But I do think part of pocket feel is a little bit of that innate instinct. So we'll just have to wait and see if that improves. And really, when he faces interior pressure, I think he panics quite a bit mechanically, and that can lead to even more accuracy issues. The deep accuracy was kind of all over the place. I don't think North Texas's receivers were that good at tracking the football, and they certainly had a ton of drops on the season. So that certainly plays a factor, but I'd like to see that improve quite a bit at Oklahoma State. I think the part of his processing that I was referring to a little bit earlier was there are times just throughout a game where he'll really get baited by a midfield hook defender, whether that's a safety robbing down or rotating down to the midfield hook zone, or a linebacker that maybe takes with a running back going maybe left, for example, and then is able to flip his hips and open up on a backside dig coming across the formation. He can get baited by some of those defensive coverages. So just need to be more aware of where those coverages are rotating as he continues to click through progressions. But certainly, I think that will improve just with more time under his belt as a starter, and he gets a second round grade from me. Coming in at quarterback 3, really, really fun player here. It is lanorris Sellers, the quarterback out of South Carolina. Now, Sellers was a part of this conversation last year when we did summer scouting with the quarterbacks. Definitely could have taken a huge leap. Didn't take the statistical leap that we expected, but neither did a lot of that South Carolina offense. And I think he did take some necessary steps in 2025. Sellers is kind of who you dream of having in like an EA college football video game. He's 6'3", 240 pounds, really, really electric athlete, and has an absolute howitzer strapped to his right arm. He is like a created player pretty much on the football field. He can make a throw from anywhere on the field. He can beat plenty of defenders in a foot race, and he's got a filled out frame to be able to take body shots and be a powerful runner on top of that. I think among this quarterback class, he's pretty comfortably the best athlete. He is exceptional as an athlete, as a runner, possessing elite speed, elite acceleration, elite change of direction skills, and overall is the strongest quarterback I've ever scouted. Was never able to scout Cam Newton. I was like 7 years old, but I'd have to assume it's something like this. His ability to break sacks so consistently is astounding on his tape. There are so many times across the tape where he is absolutely dead to rights, defender on top of him, and he's just able to shake free and make something happen when it should have been like a 5 or 6 yard loss. Going back to just the arm he possesses, he generates zip so easily. That's something that I really look for when trying to evaluate arm talent. Not only are you, generating a ton of zip or generating RPMs on the football, but are you doing it effortlessly? A lot of these guys can, fling it really hard and can throw it 50 yards, but a lot of them have to strain to do it. And lanorris Sellers is not one of those guys. He can zip it like a bullet with the flick of a wrist. He can fling it 60 yards downfield, no problem. Doesn't look like he's even using that much of his lower half to generate a ton of force to do that. It's just so effortless for him. And that just kind of plays into the fact of how strong he is as an overall player. I think in terms of processing and decision making, there was definitely a jump from 2024 to 2025. I think overall he is a good decision maker, takes care of the football for the most part. I think mechanically his release is super repeatable. It's really compact and tight and quick. And just kind of, as a superlative, I think he's the best deep ball thrower in this class. I think that jumped out in the Texas A&M game. I think that jumped out in the Virginia Tech game. I think that jumped out really across this whole season. There were so many throws down the field where he just drops it in an absolute bucket, no problem, right in stride to his receiver for a big play. And overall, he's just a gamer that gives South Carolina a chance to win on any Saturday. And he's going to keep the Gamecocks in a lot of games that they probably shouldn't be in this fall. He's not a perfect prospect, though. The deep accuracy, while elite, I think a lot of the accuracy to the other levels of the field, the quick and intermediate game, leave a lot to be desired, especially with the misses over the middle of the field. They tend to be high, which can lead to a lot of turnovers with those safeties lurking back there on the back end. And I think the main reason as to a lot of these accuracy issues, his footwork is really inconsistent as well. It's kind of a separation from his lower half mechanics to his upper half mechanics. His upper half mechanics are really good, but his lower half mechanics leave a lot to be desired as well. The decision making, like I mentioned, in the processing, while it has taken a jump, the anticipation has got to speed up. The timing, the ability to anticipate route windows and throw a receiver open over the middle of the field, that's got to take a step if he's going to be the type of quarterback that he's certainly capable of becoming. And I think something that plays into the timing aspect of things, he's got to have more confidence in his arm. He's got one of the strongest arms in the entire country, but sometimes he plays like he's got like a mid-tier arm. He's got to trust his arm more. He has the ability to fit the football into these tight windows. He's just got to go out there and do it. Outside of that, the management of the pocket, it's not the best, but I too would be a little skittish behind that offensive line. So with a lot of these transfer portal additions that South Carolina made through in the offseason, hopefully that helps Lenore Sellers' confidence in the pocket a little bit more. But absolutely undeniable talent. If he hits his ceiling, easy top 3 pick potential, and really, really excited to see how he improves this fall, and he gets a second round grade for me. Now we're getting into the cream of the crop for this quarterback class. These guys are unquestionably, in my opinion, the top 2 guys in this class. And that's going to begin at quarterback 2 with Arch Manning, the quarterback out of Texas. He is far from a Nepo baby. He is not just up here because of his last name. He is a legit elite quarterback prospect. No doubt about it at all. I think many, including myself too a little bit, but I checked back in late in the season, many checked out on Arch right after that Ohio State game when he didn't look like an absolute Heisman winner, MVP frontrunner type of player. And unfortunately for them, and unfortunately for me, until I went back and checked back in on his tape, there was a lot of special quarterback play that they missed, especially late in the season. You can absolutely tell that Arch has been bred to be a quarterback since he took his first breath. And just the minds that he's been around with Peyton and Eli, you can really tell that with the way he sees the game, with the way he processes, his feel for the pocket, and his manipulation of blocking angles to create extra space for himself. It's some of the best I've truly ever seen. He's consistently able to climb the pocket and just rifle a throw right on the money. His upper half mechanics really are repeatable, and his velocity, I thought, improved as the season wore on. I seemed like he was dealing with some injury issues early in the season. I think that kind of bottomed out maybe against Florida sometime around there, but I thought he regained some of that later in the season. He is also an exceptional athlete, great runner of the football. You can definitely tell he's Cooper Manning's son and not Peyton or Eli. For those that don't know, Cooper was a wide receiver prospect, not a quarterback. And I like his accuracy outside the numbers, too. I like his ability to hit the outbreakers to the quick and intermediate portions of the field. I think he throws a decent deep ball for the most part. Thought Texas's receivers had a really tough time tracking the football deep which led to a lot of quote unquote misses on tape, but in reality, they were probably going to be right on the money if a lot of these receivers knew how to track a football deep. And overall, for a first year full time starter, his mind for the game was just really impressive. And he's also, outside of that, got some gamer like tendencies to him, able to make some plays outside of structure. So you have that cerebral kind of baseline for him. And then he's got the athletic ability and gifts to be way more than that as well. So that's kind of the strengths for him. We're going to jump into some of the weaknesses. There are still a lot of areas that he can improve when he's in his throwing motion. While it is repeatable, his back foot is a little bit unstable and it can tend to fly open at times, out of control. I think it's okay for it to fly open, but it seems like it just flies open a little bit out of control. And that leads to some of the accuracy issues that we saw in some games this past year. Sometimes with him, it's really weird. The football just comes out really weird. It's not always a perfect spiral. I mean, when he's right, it looks pretty, but there are some times where it just comes out like a wounded duck, which is strange. So hopefully that gets a little bit more consistent in 2026. A lot of the misses that he did have over the intermediate portion of the field were high misses. So, like we explained, that can lead to a lot of turnover worthy plays over the middle of the field. But really, outside of that, I thought he showed so many flashes in 2025, more than enough to get excited about a really, really special, hopefully 2026 for him. And he's got all the talent that he could want over at Texas. He's got, who we'll talk about down the road, my number one offensive tackle. He's got a great wide receiver duo in Cam Coleman and Ryan Wingo. He's got a great defense to get him in favorable situations with field position. So I don't have any doubt that whenever he comes out, whether it's 2027, 2028, he's going to be easily a top 5 pick, I think, and probably the number 1 overall pick if it weren't for this next guy that we're going to talk about. And he gets a blue chip grade from me as well. Now jumping into my quarterback 1. A lot of people have Arch at 1, and he's certainly capable of being that for me, but I just like this guy a little bit more, and that is Dante Moore, the quarterback out of Oregon. In one of the more shocking decisions last draft cycle, Dante Moore, I think, was pretty close to a lock to go, probably second overall to the Jets, but he chose to return to Oregon. I think that's the correct decision. You're not going to get a ton of time at the NFL level to develop year over year as a young quarterback. They pull the plug faster in this era than they ever have before. So I think it's best to get as many reps as you can at the college level, particularly at least 2 years of starting experience, and take that to the next level. I think Moore is one of the easier quarterbacks to watch in this class. Very aesthetically pleasing, very easy on the eyes. His release is super clean and efficient. His footwork was also proficient, and he's got good arm talent. He's able to drive the football down the field with relative ease, and fit the ball into tight windows. On throws 10 plus yards down the field, so to the intermediate portion and to the deep portion of the field, he was dead on accurate. His general feel for the pocket continued to improve as the season wore on, and he continued to get those starting reps behind that offensive line. And I thought overall he scanned the field really well, was clicking between reads at the proper time, was getting the football out on time, was making good decisions, playing with anticipation within the structure of the offense. And while he's not going to be this plus athlete that's going to have a ton of designed quarterback carries or anything like that, he definitely is athletic enough to make some plays when the play breaks down. And overall, I think he just plays in rhythm, within structure so well, and just gets the football out on time. He's like a point guard, just always making the right decision at the right time, just picking apart defenses down the field. It's not always going to be super flashy, but he's just so proficient at that. I think the main deficiencies, though, that we saw with Moore in 2025 was when he faced those better pass rushes, those better defensive lines that were able to get pressure against Oregon's offensive line. Some things really broke down once he was under pressure. The decision-making certainly decreased in value. The accuracy definitely took a step back when he was under pressure, and he overall just seemed a little skittish when he was under pressure, which that can only come with more development and more playing time. So I think that's another reason why it was a smart idea to go back to college, because you're going to have to go, you're going to have to throw under pressure in the NFL. That's just how it is. Defensive lines are really good. I think defensive line play is definitely ahead of overall offensive line play. across the league right now. So you're going to be facing pressure and throwing in the teeth of pressure every single Sunday. So you've got to learn to be comfortable in those situations. You've got to learn to make plays under those situations. There are times in the quick game where he'll spray some throws, he'll get a little bit out of rhythm, but that's kind of like the who we've talked about with Trinidad Chambliss and Arch Manning as well. For whatever reason in the quick game, it just takes a step back a little bit. So I'd like to see that improve in 2026. I think overall he just needs to loosen up a little bit. He's a bit robotic in the pocket. It's like he's trying to be the model quarterback. He just needs to loosen up a little bit, and I think that opens up some more avenues for him to be a little bit of a playmaker out of structure. And then he's also pretty thin at 6'3", 206 pounds. The flak jacket he wears under the jersey does a lot of the heavy lifting and making him look a little bit more filled out. So just got to add some weight. I'd love for him to get up into that 215 to 220 range, somewhere in there, and be able to take those shots more consistently within the pocket. But I think overall, he is still the cleanest thrower in this class. Makes the correct decision the majority of the time. Really, really love watching him play, and he as well gets a blue chip grade for me. All right, that wraps up our first edition of the 2027 Summer Scouting Series, talking about the top 5 quarterbacks. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, go down below, drop a like, drop a comment. Make sure you click that subscribe button, and stay tuned for more summer scouting episodes. We'll continue to bring content like this to you throughout the summer as we prepare for another college football season. It's going to be an awesome one. Thank you guys again for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.